contaminating freshwater systems and affecting millions. So mountains and oceans, we have a shared fate. The climate and weather of mountain regions are deeply tied to global oceanic and atmospheric systems. In New Zealand, the projected 88% loss in glacial ice volume in the Southern Alps by 2100 will profoundly affect water supplies, biodiversity, and fire risk consequences stretch into the Pacific small island states. Let us be clear. The melting of the third pole is a planetary emergency. So we have three imperatives that I will discuss with, from risks to resilience. First, let us underline, we have made progress. Scientific collaboration is growing. Early warning systems are being built. River basins institutions are becoming stronger. But we must go further. Here are three pathways that I would like that could guide our shared action. First, we must attack the source. Tackle the drivers, that's how. Tackle the drivers of glacial retreat. We must reduce pollution at its source, improving brick kiln efficiency, reducing black carbon, and transitioning households to clean fuels like LPG and solar that can make immediate difference. Two, we must adapt together or fail separately. So water-related risk, drought, floods, scarcity requires systematic joint planning. Initiatives like adaptation of altitude are showing the way forward. The UN and ESCAP Secretariat is currently developing an AI-powered impact forecasting system to translate seasonal outlooks into real-world scenarios, enabling governments to take preemptive action. So let's make use of it and expand it more. Third, we must build early warning systems that protect life, not just predict storms. So we need to build a people-centered early warning system. These must be impact-based, risk-informed, and future-oriented. They should connect glacial risks like loss and the cloudburst to cascading effects on critical infrastructure, energy, water, transportation, and telecom networks. Now, today I'm proud to highlight that together with the government of Nepal, the UN is developing a Nepal Mountain Agenda, which is a vision for the next 50 years, led by the government of Nepal with the support of the United Nations. This is not yet another short-term project. It is a 50-year strategic framework, what we call a bold attempt to transition from fragmented sectoral responses into a unified long-term vision. The aim is simple, yet transformative, to ensure that Nepal's development today does not compromise its ability to thrive tomorrow. The Himalayas define Nepal, but they also shape the hydrological, ecological, and cultural destiny of the region. From the Gandaki to Koshi, from the Karnali to Makali, every river basin is part of one interconnected system. We must stop treating them as isolated pieces. This agenda will impact the climate on biodiversity, water system, culture, livelihoods, and people, and transform it into an integrated investment plan of resilience. At heart, this is a resource mobilization strategy designed to unlock vertical funds, multilateral climate financing, and private sector capital. And it's not just technical. The plan draws strength from something deeper, from Nepal's innovative connection to the land. The Himalayas are not just peaks for us. They are the Devanbhumi sacred ground, the realm of gods and sagas. This spiritual legacy is what will sustain the will of the Nepali people to protect what matters most. What we need now is a highland-island compact, a shared commitment between upstream and downstream nations, between mountain countries and coastal ones, between highland glaciers and island reefs. We must think this way. Your storm is my drought. Your flood is my famine. Your sea rise is my river dry. And we will not let each other fall. Let us build this alliance through knowledge exchange, through financing resilience, policy solidarity. Let us elevate the voices of indigenous and vulnerable communities who hold deep practical knowledge of how to live with nature, not against it. Let us build regional cooperation. Where it's happening, of course, already, where Nepal is already engaging and engage more with Bhutan, India, Bangladesh, and for others to learn lessons, technologies, and experiences. So in conclusion, my friends and colleagues, the glacier crisis is not inevitable, but inaction is unforgivable. Let Sagarmatha Sambaad be remembered as the place where mountains and the seas, the upstreams and the downstreams, the highlands and the islands came together and said enough. So I will end with a most apt line pinned by the late Nepali poet Madhav Prasad Gimiri. Ochai Hamru, Chulin Chakaha, Himalay Narahe. Thank you. Deri Deri Dhanyabad.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Hannah, for very strong support for climate change issues. And of course, ending with wonderful way from Madhav Prasad Gimire's quote. You know, that's wonderful. And especially your focus on the importance of these types of meetings for survival. And that's where it is now. And then, of course, planetary emergency, from disasters to resilience, and the pathways, 3 pathways, drivers of climate change, adaptation, early warning system, and the need for regional as well as international collaboration. I think this is where we are now. I think we have now a very nicely segue into our panel discussions. Let me start first with the invitation to our panelists. Let me invite Ms. Alenka Smerkoli, if I say it correctly, Madam, please correct me. Secretary General of the Alpine Convention, please come to the dais. Let me also invite Professor Dr. Hiroki Kenjo, coordinator of the high-level panel Japan Water Forum. Please. Let me invite the other panelist, which is Mr. Ian Fry, Advisor, Ministry of Home Affairs of Tuvalu. Let me also invite on dais the 4th panelist, Mr. Ziaul Haq, Director, Department of Environment, Bangladesh. Thank you very much, all the panelists, for coming over here. Maybe it is better if you are on this side. This would be better because it looks good. Especially, thank you very much for taking your time to really come here to this very important event here. That shows not only your desire to come here, but also your commitment to the cause of the issues that we are facing, the mountains, the climate change, and the future of humanity. Let me begin with our distinguished, the first distinguished panelist, Ms. Alenka Smerkoli. She's Secretary General of the Alpine Convention, if you've heard about it. This is a very important convention, in fact, the only convention that we have of the mountains, which is in Europe, the Alps, and you all know that. Madame Alenka has a very distinguished ministerial experience in sustainable development and leadership in banking and management in Slovenia, and now in the protection and sustainable development of the Alps as a path-breaking region for sustainable living. Madame, it has been almost 30 years since the Alpine Convention came into operation, with a commitment to protect the Alpine region, the first of its kind covering an entire region with surprisingly equal number of countries, 8 countries in Alpine and 8 countries here in the Integrated Center for International Mountain Development here. Now, can you tell us a little bit about the collaboration among the mountain countries in the Alps region and the impact of the climate change on mountains, economy, and the livelihood of people, and how you are really dealing with the mountain issues, the people, the economy, the livelihood, as well as the nature and the climate change impacts? You have the floor, Madam.
Thank you very much for the floor. First of all, let me just say that I'm very, very honored and also happy, personally happy to be here with you today. I am representing the Alpine Convention, and as already stated, I don't think a lot of you already heard about it. But it is a convention that was established more than 30 years ago, really to protect the entire range. It was the first convention as a legal treaty protecting and really a mountain range, not just parts or one country, that is somehow really working for more than 30 years. And I think this is my main message that I will try to give to you today. You're right, we are 8 Alpine countries. So from Monaco, France, Switzerland, Germany, Austria, Liechtenstein, Slovenia, in the end also European Union became a contracting party. So this is the political level. And we are indeed a legal instrument. Our protocols are ratified in parliaments, and this is, let's say, our legal basis and one part of our action. But to me, even more important part, it's a basis for everything. But the part that really works for more than 30 years is cooperation. And the message is that regional mechanisms really work. I think we are really a good case, and we can be proud of it. And I think it's also our responsibility that we share this experience to other mountain ranges. For me, let's say, what does it mean? We are somehow, I would say, a living platform. We are formed, we have like very formal bodies where we have representatives of governments, but the most important part where the content takes place is we always have, of course, we have challenges that are all cross-border. So for us, it's all cooperation that needs to be cross-border. And we had to learn for a lot of years of how to speak with each other because we are different languages, different cultures, different everything. So it was not easy, and it still is not easy. But it makes sense, or it is the only way, cooperation is the only way of how you address the challenges we face. And you will not be surprised when I say that we have same challenges as you in Himalayas, or Hindu Kush Himalayas have. It's like, of course, climate change, mitigation and adaptation. We are concerned with huge biodiversity loss. Also, we have mountains, we are just like a bit lower than you are. But also our people see it and live like you do. So the consequences, we already see them and live them. So we are a smaller range, but with the same kind of challenges. So within our working groups, what is, I think, or what really works is that we don't just have representative of public administration, but we have also researchers, people from different institutes, we have NGOs, local communities. So all levels, not just the formal level of government, but really all levels of not just government, but also other stakeholders who try to design solutions together and then make recommendations to the governments that then in the end at ministerial conference try to adopt declarations or take decisions for actions. I think this is my main message, and I would leave it here and then continue afterwards.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam. I think it is very important for us. Thank you. I think this is very important for us to really have a reflection that, yes, there are small and big countries. You can see that. You are looking at the dynamics of the play. There are opportunities, but there are also challenges. This is the similar thing in terms, of course, the size of the country is different. The range of the mountains are different. But again, I think this is something that we can also learn. We'll come back to the legal instrument and the institutional collaboration and the government representative, perhaps at the end. How do we really take it that to our level as well, to our region as well? That will come back. So thank you very much, Madam, for really setting the scene for us, really taking us to Europe and see how collaboration among mountain countries can really work. Now, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Hiroki Kenjo, coordinator of the high-level panel Japan Water Forum. You have a very distinguished background in the research and development as well as in policy formulation and advocacy on water and disasters at the regional and global levels. So let us have a look at, because I know that you have a small presentation you wanted to have, so let us have a look at what water is and what the disasters and what the, the impact of the ecosystem services that we provide.
Thank you very much. Namaste. So let me use my slide. And, actually the organizer asked 3 questions, and then I'm answering those questions. First question is, how can Highland Island nations strengthen joint efforts to accelerate climate action? Immediate answer to this is, it's not easy. Because 2 questions. One, why do we have to act now? People will ask. Because, having everyday life, there's rain, there's no rain, good life, bad life, but why do I have to act for the climate change impact? Second, if we are convinced that we have to act, still we have a question. Why do we as a mountain nation people have to cooperate with ocean people who are miles and miles away, and vice versa? So first of all, these 2 questions have to answer. Next slide, please. Oh, this one. So first, to answer the first question, we have to have a science base for us to create a sense of urgency among ourselves. This is we have to have the help of the science. Because, for example, I was living in Nepal for 35 years back. And then I saw the mountains, I went to a trekking, I saw a lot of snow. But when I saw the picture these days, the white snows are not there anymore. But this is my personal experience. Nobody believes me because, oh, you are too old. So I have to show, as a scientist, what's happening actually on the base of science. This is one example. Glaciers of the world has become thinner by 20 meters in the recent 35 years when I was living here. So as you see here, there are 20-meter decrease, obviously, here. But, the speed of melting is different. 35 years when I was here was like that one. Now, we are having a melting of the glaciers 3 times faster, which is very, very alarming. The second thing, what causes, what these things cause. This is a picture of the, for example, Vietnam Mekong Delta. This is the decrease of duration of rise calculation. Because if there's climate change, then there'll be a seawater rise. But also the water coming from the upstream will be less in peak season. That creates a double effect because sea level rise, which will make the intrusion of the seawater from the sea easier, and then resistance force from the river flow is weakened. So this double effect will allow water and surface water more salty. And then from cultivating rice twice, they have to reduce it from the twice a year to once a year. That is the visible effect of the climate change. The second thing is that this is a case of but also in Japan. Actually, already Japan, 3 million people of Japan is under sea water level, including my apartment. And after the climate change makes progress, the 3 million will increase to 4.4 million. So the government has to take care of those 4.4 million people living under the sea. So you can see that this is climate change impact is not things for the only developing countries, but also for the developed countries. So we have to tell to those people, this is your problem. So by help of this science, we can convince the people or ourselves that we have to act right now. Then next question is, why do we have to cooperate with other people? You are not friends, so we don't want to cooperate with you. This is overarching framework of solidarity from highlands to islands. This is a newly developed concept of the water region. Water region is defined here as an area of a single or multiple river systems, including bays and oceans, that can function as an economic, social, cultural, and or political unit. So this is not just a water unit, but also it's an economic unit because they are living the same livelihoods, and also socially they are connected, even culturally, and also politically it has to be. It is not easy because water may be a source of conflict. But I would rather stress here that water is also agent for peace. This is a result of the Oregon University, State University of Oregon, having investigated the past 50 years of water events between the countries. The finding is that there were 1,800 events occurring between the countries about water. And here, as shown in the graph, the black part is cooperative, from mild, exchange of the goodwill to the real cooperation. The other side is that from the nasty wars between each other to formal war. So if you classify this way, you can see that there are 500 conflictive events. But at the same time, we have more cooperative events, 1,200, meaning that human being is wiser than we think by ourselves. So our challenge is to increase more cooperative events from conflict events by making use of the sense of solidarity. And there's a reason to do that because, for example, in Asia, we have to do cooperation to combat the same or similar or common disaster like in this case. I'm in Japan, so I have a tsunami. But tsunami hits not only Japan, but also all the islands in the Pacific. But there are similar cases in the Indian Ocean, but also there's one cyclone coming from the Indian Ocean to Bangladesh, to India, and even to Nepal or Bhutan, meaning that we have to cooperate. Without doing so, we cannot protect our own lives. So this is the one practical reason to create a sense of solidarity. And we have to do that, we need some support. This is one case of support from island to highlands. We are Japanese, we are in Japan. So this is the integrated flood analysis system, making use of the satellite-based data to analyze it and to get a warning instantly. This is free of charge. Anybody can make use of their personal computer, and after 5 days, they can create the warning of your own water basin. So this is, for example, one contribution from Japan. And this question too,
maybe question you can take it next time, or
yes,
yeah,
I think so. Because
thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Professor. Really highlighting some of the very important issues: salinization of water. 3 million people already underwater. I was just sitting next to the Netherlands delegation. He was also saying that Netherlands is almost 50% now below the sea level. So that's already growing in Delhi. I think the difference is whether you have the capacity to really adapt to that or not. That is another one that we will come back to the issue. Now, let me now introduce our third panelist, Mr. Ian Fry, advisor in the Ministry of Home Affairs, Tuvalu. We talked about mountains. Now let us go to the islands. Beautiful place, but again, how you can really maintain your beauty. Sea level rise due to climate change and unprecedented and multidimensional threat to the life. So that they have been also dealing with the issue of a security state because of the sea level rise due to climate change. So you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm representing the lowest lying country in the world, speaking at the highest country in the world. So I look up to you. Tuvalu's highest point above sea level is only 4 meters. So, and I'm part of the Tuvalu rescue team, and it's very rigorous training. We 4 meters and train very vigorously for that. In March this year, Tuvalu held a workshop for World Water Day, and the theme of that workshop was called Vanishing Glaciers, Rising Tides. So clearly there is a recognition of the loss of water from glaciers is affecting sea level rise in small island states like Tuvalu. So it's a critical issue and imperative that we collaborate and find ways of doing that. And I, having been in climate change negotiations for over 22 years, seeing how groups, develop and evolve, I'd like to sort of show a bit of wisdom on that and talk about some who, how, and when. I think there is an opportunity for an alliance between mountainous countries and small island states. And you might want to call it a glacier to sea alliance. Because there are glaciers in every continent of the world except for Australia. And so there is a number of countries who share similar issues around glaciers. And I think that that's a good starting point and connection for this issue. And of course, small island states are realizing that, the glacial melt is affecting their future. So this is a critical way to deal with that. So how could that be developed? Clearly, we need some champions, coming out of this process to pick this up and run with it and create some sort of alliance. And maybe in the margins of this meeting or straight after, you can find some champions to take forward with this issue. There are models for these sorts of alliances. So the Alliance of Small Island States has been around since the beginning of the Climate Convention. It basically works out of New York with a secretariat based in New York, and the High Commissioners coordinate amongst themselves. Then you've got the Least Developed Countries Group, and Nepal has been very active in the Least Developed Countries Group for a number of years. Unfortunately, there's a new political imperative that many of the least developed countries, particularly from the Asia-Pacific region, are graduating from LDC status. And that's going to leave an advocacy vacuum. So even more so, there is a need to create some sort of new alliance of countries, particularly from some of the LDCs who are graduating, to have a strong voice in international fora. I think these, this sort of alliance, what should it be focusing on? And this is a crucial issue. Is it going to be an alliance for more science, for more collaboration, research, or is it going to be a political alliance? Myself being a more political animal and realising in the questions here the urgency of ambition, we have to take stronger action and use this alliance to take political action. So I think, it'd be lovely to see a representative from this Glaciers to Sea Alliance at a G20 meeting to really put upon those countries. What should we be talking about? As we've heard from previous speakers, there are crucial issues, particularly black carbon. And I think this could be a serious focus of mitigation effort. Black carbon is affecting the life cycle of glaciers and is a crucial area where there hasn't been a lot of political focus. The US established a program on black carbon at one stage, but that hasn't gone very far. And I think this is a crucial issue. The other crucial issue is at the other end of the spectrum, and this is looking at loss and damage and getting access to the Loss and Damage Fund. If you look at the Climate Convention, it identifies, and the Paris Agreement, the particular concerns of least developed countries and small island states. And there was a lot of debate as whether mountainous countries should be included in that definition. And of course, African countries also pushed hard for that. But that wasn't the case. And so, maybe we have to start rethinking how mountainous and glacial countries and small island states position themselves in the political agenda. One crucial issue that I think we should all be focusing on in this urgency of action is on banks. And there was a recent report put out by Forbes magazine which says that the world's 60 largest private banks financed fossil fuels to the sum of $6.9 trillion. So here we are trying to fight for our survival, and the banks are still underwriting our demise. And we have to think closely about that. So I would like to see some sort of eminent person group that would come out of this alliance to actually put pressure on the banks and look at the role of the banks. Maybe there has to be an annual report on where the banks are financing themselves. We also need to lobby the climate change process itself. COPs have got out of control. They've become huge and not very productive. And I think we have to look at how we can downsize the COPs and not just have them in fossil fuel exporting countries, which seems to be the trend now. So there are a lot of options that we can think of. And I think we can start now. I think it would be great if Nepal could take up this challenge. Maybe the Prime Minister of Nepal could meet in the margins of the UN General Assembly and form a group to collaborate on this issue. There's a UN Oceans Conference coming up, and there should be this sort of debate brought up in those issues. And of course, at the next COP, a ministerial dialogue, a ministerial declaration would be very effective. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for highlighting the urgency, but also really detailing how we should go about in terms of advocacy, in terms of creating an alliance, in terms of political, really, the push around the world to the cause of the mountain countries and the climate, and working together with the island groups. This is precisely the whole idea of this particular, conference. Now I would like to go to our fourth panelist, Mr. Ziaul Haq, Director of the Department of Environment in Bangladesh. You have been involved in Bangladeshi environment policy formulation within the country, but also a very long time engaged in LDC negotiation in the UNFCCC process. But I must say here, for information to you all, that I have seen both Mr. Ian Fry and Mr. Ziaul Haq in the conference in UNFCCC for ages. I don't know, from 2009, and that must be another era that I'm thinking of. But still, you are doing it. So you have the floor. And really, how we can see the mountains and the lowlands and then, of course, the island countries connected to each other. You have the floor.
Thank you, Gyan Acharya-ji, and good afternoon, namaste, colleagues, and distinguished panelists. In fact, we have heard from the panelists just before me, and they have outlined a series of recommendations. And I fully align myself with the recommendations they already put forward. In fact, we are talking about the water, the melting of ice in the Himalayan regions. Actually, water is life, and water is the fundamental element of all ecosystems. But the point is that in terms of availability of water, we are actually facing the difficulty. Particularly in case of Bangladesh, we are actually suffering from too much water in some period of time, too little water, wrong type of water, wrong timing of water. When we don't require water, we are receiving huge amount of water. When we need desperately water, we are suffering from lack of water. And salinity intrusion has been increased to a greater extent. An estimate says that the saline water intrusion has reached towards inland 180 kilometers towards inland through our river system. In terms of annual sea level rise, it is annually 3 to 6 millimeter per year. The sea level rise is happening along our coast. So the point is that, as we have discussed rightfully, that we have to create a good connection, a relationship between the highland and lowland and island. That's why the topic that we have suggested, the connecting highlands to islands. Very interesting. And when we talk about the consequence that is occurring in the highlands, and what is the eventual fate of the consequence in the downstream communities, we have been experiencing these consequences. For instance, I can provide one important information that during monsoon we are receiving huge water from upstream, around more than 2 million square kilometers catchment area. Those huge waters flow through Bangladesh down to Bay of Bengal. So we are acting as a big ecological, drain, ecological passage going through Bangladesh down to Bay of Bengal. But the point is that I should mention, in terms of referring to some information that we heard from in the morning, that is as Hannah has mentioned in his presentation, that 80% of the Himalayan ice may disappear by the next 70 years. And 60% of the fresh water sources is the mountain ice. 60%, as Mr. Acharya has rightfully mentioned that, and we are fully dependent on the mountain freshwater system as a downstream community. So, and in one hand, we are suffering from huge waters in the monsoon. On the other hand, we are also fully dependent on the freshwater resources from the mountains, which may disappear in the century, within the next 70 years. So I can imagine what will happen when after 2050 or 2060, then there will be no ice in the Himalayan, and there will be no freshwater sources for our 180 million people in Bangladesh. So this is the dire consequences that we may face in the future as we move along the process. And in this connection, I have to mention, since I've been in the process of climate change negotiations for quite some time with Jan Fry, that we have to address the root cause of global warming, the global climate change. This is emission, global emission. And now the IPCC and the latest science is very clear about that if you want to achieve our Paris Agreement temperature goal, 1.5 or well below 2 degrees Celsius, we have to reduce our global emission by 42% by 2030 relative to 2019 emission level, and by 57% by 2035 relative to 2019 emission level. And every year our emission is growing by 1.3%, still growing. So we have to reach emission peak as soon as possible, and thereafter we have to reduce our emission at global scale as well as the regional scale drastically. Otherwise, you know that this is the root cause. And at one point in time, you will see that no adaptation options work. There will be no adaptation opportunities that will be feasible and appropriate for a country like ours, the low-lying countries and the mountainous countries. So at international level, at regional level, we have to form a very good coalition so that we can ask the players who can contribute to the process of reducing the global emission, but at the same time, we have to consider the very principle, common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for highlighting, a very important issue of really the water floods, but also water insecurity. And I think yes, you said water is life, but I would add that mountains are also water reservoirs. So look at that, and then how it can be really disastrous, especially in the monsoon region. I think other things that I think it is very important for all of us to really look at is that the debate that we are having here among the mountain countries, the countries with lowlands, as well as the island countries, is also to contribute to the global debate that we must have ambition. I think we are really moving into that direction as well. Otherwise, we will be going on adapting to the situation where you cannot really adapt at all. So that's why I think the political alliance or the collaboration and cooperation that you can have at the global level, as well as at the regional level, will also perhaps contribute to really enhance the ambition and to have a strong voice for that debate, really to lift that debate up to the next level. And similarly, I think perhaps we can also talk about how we can collaborate among each other, especially whether it is about the legal, the provisions that you have among the mountain countries in Europe, perhaps you can have that, or similar nature in our region as well. And then perhaps also increase collaboration between the mountain countries themselves about adaptation, about loss and damage, about finance, and how do you really take all the issues from the emission reduction to the adaptation, to the loss and damage, all the way to the finance and the global and regional cooperation. And perhaps I think we can also discuss a little bit about that, especially in regard to the best practices, regional collaboration, and international collaboration, a little bit into detail. Of course, you have outlined a bit of a political alliance, but what it is that you can go beyond that as well. Political alliance is needed, but then again in all the four areas that we just talked about, from the the emission reduction to the adaptation, then the loss and damage and the finance. So I would like to invite Madame to really look at that, and then perhaps in what way the mountain countries themselves can really have collaboration with the mountain countries around the world. Can I start from Madame?
Yeah, as far as we are concerned, I already said before, a regional mechanism works. Even if it needs to be, in my view, first the political alliance, because researchers, science, I think there's already so much cooperation and there's so much evidence-based and knowledge around what we are discussing. What we are lacking and what we also lacked in the Alps years ago was a sort of a political alliance, and that was the most difficult step to take. Because in essence, well, politicians do not believe each other. I've been in politics for a long time to understand this. And even if you share the same challenges, even if you understand that everything is interconnected, it's so difficult to a bit not compete, but understand that you need to cooperate if you want to move forward. And I think to me, it would be a huge inspiration that other similar regional mechanisms would be formed, because they then somehow unite voices within the region, and this is crucial. I mean, the most important, if in the Hindu Kush Himalaya, you would be able to even think, and you are thinking, and I'm very happy about it, to do such a step. I think that it would not be the first step for the region, which is huge enough, and all the downstream that we are aware about, but it would be a sort of the first step for the future of humanity, which is Sagarmatha Sambaad all about. And of course, this is the most important thing. But I was very, very happy when I got a call. I think it was from UNEP Vienna. It was, I think, 3 years ago when they said, well, there is a high-level task force from Hindu Kush Himalaya region, members from all the countries. Ministers decided that they sent this task force to Europe for a study visit. And together with the colleagues that we already knew before, ICIMOT, who is a very well-known research institute worldwide, based here in Kathmandu, they came to Innsbruck, where the Alpine Convention is based. And we spent 3 days together, locked in a room, trying to discuss not about what really works, but what doesn't work or did not work, or where are the difficulties, and how we do this and how we do that, and how we avoid conflicts, because of course this is also a bit of our daily life. And in the end, of course, you always find out that you're not just shared the knowledge you have, but you also learned a lot. And I think such small steps should be the ones that should lead into the future. That's one of the things. And it's not just here, also Andes. They are also very far away, but they are also thinking around such an instrument, different ways, different kinds. It will be different everywhere. But this would be the first part, which would then enable also mountain regions together with small island states. That would be even the next beautiful step, to work together and have a more united global voice, because that in those fora, both in the Climate and Biodiversity Convention, this is urgently needed.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam. Thank you for really talking about this regional mechanism. I think we'll have that discussion later on, perhaps tomorrow as well. There is a ICIMOT discussion that will also talk about some of the regional experiences. Now I would like to invite, of course, Dr. Hiroki Kenjo to really take up some of the rest of the issues in terms of the collaboration, cooperation you are about to start. Please.
Okay.
If you can finish it in 3 to 5 minutes, that would be nice.
Since I spent 7 minutes last time, I'll finish by 3 minutes.
Okay. I will add 1 or 2 more minutes, yes.
So, question is, okay, we have to do something between mountain and then then okay. Already I spent 30 seconds. So science have to connect highland with island. So this is just one case how what's happening in the highland is impacting lowlands. So that is a very basic research we have to do to discuss highland and mountains. So there are, for example, in my case, by ICIMOD and Ocean Policy Research Institute, Japan, there are 5 items. One, we are in the glaciers, assessing cryosphere status and its changes. And second, if something is happening, what is happening in the downstream? So what to do? So we have to focus on communities. So number 2 is a community-based action we can do adapt to the climate change. In this case is the environmental actions, climate change adaptation actions, and disaster actions. And then, for example, what happens if the climate change creates more flooding? Then how community can be adapt to that? There's a good example, which I can mention later if there's still time. Then third is, climate change impact on coast and Bay of Bengal. So what happens to mangrove if climate change, if glacier is melting faster? And also what happens to the species if water is less from the mountain areas? That has to be found out. So finally, we have to pack all things together and to develop the glacier to ocean approaches. That is one reporting. Then the final thing is what you asked, how global community can do and to do what. Then I suggest three things: awareness, science, and politics. Awareness. My suggestion is that use this year, 2025, as an opportunity to galvanize country actions for glaciers and oceans. Because this is the International Year of Glacier, and also this is the first World Lake Day, August 27, because last year this was adopted by the General Assembly. So how to do that? If you have some event or celebration or what kind of discussion, then you talk to the finance ministry. The finance ministry will ask you, why are you doing that? Because this is the international year. Second thing is science. We have to promote interaction among highland and island scientists to know more. Then we are having a second interpolar conference in Kathmandu in September this year. This is creating a global scientific movement connecting mountains and oceans for the first time. This is starting from Kathmandu. The third is politics. We have to engage top leaders, political leaders, to set global agenda because of the Red Ocean. We have the energy, we have the environment, we have the war, we have conflicts. So why water? Then we are going to have the UN thematic session, special thematic session, water and disasters in July. This is to invite Prime Minister and President to discuss about water and disasters. And we are going to have a special session from glaciers to ocean in this UN session. So I stop here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for really highlighting three areas: awareness, science, and politics. I think that covers everything. Want to add something, Mr. Ian Fry, on the international cooperation that you had already said a few things? Yes, you want to say something more? Yeah, quickly.
Yes, briefly. I said a lot before, and I have a lot to consume with that. A couple of other thoughts. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Or mountains, Isimod, just to name a few, and there are other EU agencies here collaborating. I met the Nepal's representative to the Interparliamentary Union yesterday, and so also action that can be taken at the political level. Just one issue on the loss and damage fund. We need to think outside the box. The money being loss and damage is far to meet the world, the people who are being affected by loss and damage. So perhaps this alliance or whatever group of finance experts to think outside the box and come up with some ideas of new and innovative sources of finance for loss and damage. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your wonderful suggestion. And now I will ask Mr. Jaolak to add a few things, especially about international cooperation. Yeah.
Thank you, Acharya-ji. In fact, Mr. Ian Fry and Dr. Shiroki mentioned about international collaboration. I would like to touch upon some of the collaboration that we can consider in our activities. I feel that we should foster the regional integration and collaboration in areas of mutual interest. There are some potential regional collaborative activities can be undertaken at regional scale to harness the opportunity that is available out there. At the same time, in terms of early warning system, we should promote the sharing of and enhancement of sharing of data and information, knowledge and information at a regional scale. And at the same time, I feel that there are some regional institutions which are working very effectively in the regional scale. We should promote them, and we should try to enhance their ability through mobilization of resources. So we should try to create some regional fund so that those institutions can work efficiently and can bring about the greater benefit regional scale. Thank you very much.
Thank you for highlighting regional dimension of cooperation, especially with regard to the early warning, sharing of data, and then, of course, other collaboration in regard to the adaptation and other issues. Thank you very much. I think we have heard from the panelists. I would like to thank them for the wonderful presentation. But, of course, we have audience here. They are very attentively listening to what you have presented. They must have a lot of questions, but I have a pressure of time. You understand that these panels are always like that. This is nothing new to this particular panel. So I would just hope that we'll have a couple of questions, and then I'll ask the panelists to deal with them appropriately. Yeah, any questions, or everybody just convinced that the way they are just explained? Yes. Yes, I see here one. Yeah. And then here. Yeah. Many other, maybe I will have to limit to only three. Maybe I'll end it here. I will have just three. So I will start with, yes. Please, can you give the mic here, and then I will ask him. You've got a mic, there. No, that's fine. It's there. Please.
Thank you. My name is Buddhi Narayan Shrestha, border analyst, Nepal Council of World Affairs. My query to Dr. Hiroki Kenjo. You mentioned that glaciers are becoming thinner, nearly 50 centimeters per year is at sea level rising. And you mentioned also that it needs framework of solidarity. I mentioned Nepal is located between two Asian giants, India and China. Everybody knows. Some Indian industries use charcoal even in the days, and they emit dust particles and smokes on the air. Similarly, in China, Shanghai industrial estate emit small dust particles in the atmosphere. And I mentioned also that it has affected Nepal Himalayan glaciers to become thinner and thinner. My query to you is, what type of framework of solidarity needs among Nepal, India, China, not to let further thinner Nepal Himalayan glaciers? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe I'll take all the questions together and then we'll reply. That would be easier. Okay, now to your own colleague here, and then I'll get back to you, madam. Yeah. Thank you, Buddhanarji. Yeah, now it is here. Yes, please.
Thank you, everyone, for your wonderful and beautiful words. And my name is Amrit Sharma. I am currently working in Ministry of Forestry and Environment as conservation officer. And my query is that you have beautifully connected highlands and islands. And highlands and islands are two parts of the world. They are extremely facing climate crisis in all sense, and particularly in case of finance, how we are going to connect them, and how in areas of either mitigation or adaptation we'll use the financial resource. That's my query. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam over there, yeah.
Thank you, Floor. Akanksha, I'm a journalist and researcher. I just have two questions which are actually related to the questions asked before. Alinka, I just wanted to ask you, because you talked about the political will. If there has been lack of political will among the leading partners in the climate change fight, how do you see the future of, meeting the climate finance? That's one. And I just wanted to ask Hannah, because she's here. Ma'am, okay, sorry. Okay. I just wanted to ask on the multilateral negotiations. In the opening session today and in the media lately, there's been a lot of debate on, multilateral dialogues losing its strength in terms of climate change negotiations. Do you think that the regional initiatives are now going to be predominant in leading climate change debates, and especially in context of India and China being the dominant actors in the region? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think we have heard 3 questions. I think let us limit to that. Now, first I would like to give the floor to Professor Dr. Hiroki Kenjo. And then I would like to ask others to pick up the other questions. Yes, there is one directly directed to you, sir.
Okay, 2 things. One, yes, China, if China and India are, emitting pollutions, then we have to tell them, okay, that is on the air, PM2.5 and all, that are falling onto glaciers, and then that glacier is getting darker. Meaning it absorbs heat more, which increases, melting of the glacier. That means that if you do something wrong, then you are coming back. The water is coming back to you with a bad effect on you. That is the first thing. The second thing is that it's good if you make use of the international organization like ICIMOD, because they have representatives and researchers from India, China, and all other countries. They can discuss among themselves and give the message to their home countries and what's actually happening if you do what. If India do what, then how it is impacting other countries, also including India. So let's make use of the neutral and the scientific knowledge like ICIMOD to give the right scientific advice to each of the countries. That is, 2 things I can mention.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. And there was a question about political will on finance, especially the mountain countries. And there was a question related to the regional, the multilateral dialogue. You want to take it, Valenka, madam?
It's not an easy question, as you know, and it's also, I can expose myself because I'm totally neutral. I think that I think I would just say the same words that I said in the end. If the biggest, the challenge you have here is even much, much bigger than the one we have in Europe. And there needs to be an extreme political will to start discussing, especially understanding the circumstances you have in the region. But if in the end you find a solution and also political alliance on the climate change, let's say mitigation and adaptation, or one or the other, is formed, I think this is when the world, the whole planet would celebrate.
Thank you very much. Mr. Infre, you want to take up some of the issue related to finance as well as the regional negotiations?
Yeah, I think
and I'll come back.
Just because one country has walked away from multilateralism doesn't mean the rest of the world has walked away from multilateralism. And I think, the policy vacuum created by that one country can be filled by other countries. So we shouldn't despair at the situation. And I think, there are opportunities to talk to other countries to build, stronger collaboration and get the climate finance that we need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jalak, you want to say something?
Thank you. in terms of attracting the international climate financing, the countries like us have to have the tools or instrument to attract them. So there are international documents that we are preparing now, the National Adaptation Plan, NDC, Nationally Determined Contribution. So this year, all countries are supposed to put forward the NDC 3. And in the NDC 3, we should address both the greenhouse gases and short-lived climate pollutants, as Dr. Shiroke has mentioned, the black carbons and other related short-lived climate pollutants. So I feel if we can effectively and meaningfully address those pollutants, both the long-lived and long-lived climate pollutants, then there might be some useful outcome at the end of the day through the emission reduction from the activities that the one colleague has mentioned about the charcoal and other polluting activities that we are facing at this point in time. So my point is that at regional scale and as well as the national scale, we have to address them in our national document, which will be submitted to the international community through NAP and NDC, and through which we can actually seek international support and we can attract and convince the international financing authority to contribute to our recipient countries. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hannah, you want to say something? Right, just by way of concluding this session. Yeah.
I loved very much what you said. We should never despair multilateralism. Multilateralism is us, is you and me, is all of us. We've spent 80 years to build multilateralism, and we should actually continue to strengthen this. And even if we focus, of course, regional can take precedence sometimes and focus, but the support of multilateralism still is very critical. We are not in an ordinary dialogue anymore. We are in a crisis. We are in a survival mode. So we have to use whatever mode we have, whether regional, multilateralism, whatever. And as my wonderful panel colleague said, we should never despair. But this is a time for action now, whatever modality works.
Thank you very much. I think this is the wonderful way to really look at the whole issue. Now, I think some of the issue that I just wanted to really, catch, and then, of course, really take it up by way of concluding this session here. I think we all agreed that, as we stated in the beginning, that there is a direct connection between the mountains, the lowlands, and the islands. This sea level rise, the melting of glaciers, the disasters, water tower, whichever way you look at it. The benefits you get from the mountains, but also disasters. You get it from the mountains because of the climate-induced effects. So that's something that has come out from this session, which is wonderful. This is precisely what we were looking for as well. And there are points, I think there are very important ways when you look at it. I was just thinking that, this interconnectedness is not only about glacier melting and sea level rise, but also if you look at the multiple degree of vulnerabilities that the islands and the mountains face, there are many ways they can really work together, whether it is adaptation or whether it is the, related to the salinization of the water that we talked about. There are, and the multiple vulnerability means not only related to the climate change but also economic vulnerabilities. They are away from the the major towns and the major centers. The cost of doing trade is one of the highest in the island countries as well as in the mountain countries. There are so many things that really link them together. The third thing that I would also say is that they had minimal contribution to this climate change, but they have disproportionately impacted by. This is precisely what is happening to the island. This is precisely what is happening to the mountain communities as a whole. So that also brings all these communities really together. And then, of course, probably, as we also talked about it, that when we think about raising our voice, which is the most important thing, I think it is very important for us that, as we all said, multilateralism is the way to go to the future. We are all globally connected, whether we like it or not. You cannot be isolated from any place. Any event that happens in one part of the world is really going to affect the other parts of the world, now or later. That's why I think multilateralism is the only way that you can deal with that interdependent and globalized world that we are in. That's why I think we have to really take it to the next level, which means that if we are raising the voice, because if we are raising means that probably we are raising it a bit more louder, especially because we are at the receiving end of all these climate change impacts in a much more serious, in much more disastrous manner than in the past. Therefore, whether it is to enhance the ambition of mitigation or to complement our national efforts through regional collaboration, that is what we also talked about. And then international community has to come in, because this is a global issue and the finance is a major challenge. It is about climate justice. It is about a loss and damage, which is already happening. We saw that in our one, the devastating, the impact of the glacial lake outburst last year here, but also a couple of years cascading impact in Melamchi as well. The huge impact that we have already seen. People, it's not about future. It's about happening. It is at the present. And therefore, I think when it comes to the international level, three things that we talked about: the awareness, raising awareness, and the science that you also raised, and then having an alliance. I think that is really what we have to really look at. When you say alliance, it could be a formal alliance, it could be an informal alliance, but we have to begin to talk it together. I think raising the voice together, we have seen that. I'll just tell you, one of the events that we did, our friend Jiaolog was there, when there was a less ambition, especially in Copenhagen, that was the, it was from a different era. But again, and when again it was an issue in Durban, when we were having a negotiation, many of the people I see here was also there in Durban as well. So when there was a less ambition which was being negotiated, it is the, the small islands and the LDCs, they combined, they joined their efforts, working together with the like-minded countries to really push very hard to really raise the ambition at the time. That was an era when, 1.5 was even not negotiated. So it can happen if we do it together. It can really raise voice. And then, of course, using all the forums, which is very important. Using the UN forum, using the Forum of Development Finance Institute, but using also the private sector forum, like the private banks, the new innovative, the bonds, green bonds, and things like that. These innovative finance must be used in order to really raise the finance at the global level. And at the end of the day, I think this is the time for the international community to raise their voice together, higher, in a serious manner. I think this conference and this particular panel probably really is very happy to really go forward with taking this agenda together beyond the mountains to the lowlands and to the islands and to the global level at all forums. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me once again thank all the panelists for their wonderful contributions. Yes. MC, you have.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all our panelists and the esteemed speakers for their powerful and insightful conversations about connection between highlands and the lowlands. Speakers emphasized the need for regional cooperation, legal framework, and holding financial institutions accountable. They also called for stronger global advocacy, inclusive mechanism, and science-based action to ensure climate justice.